So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Surprise, Aston Villa fans. This is a surprise podcast that even myself and Paddy didn't know we were doing roughly about 7.5 minutes ago when Paddy messaged me and goes, "Hi, are we doing any preview for the Everton game?" And I went, "Oh yeah, forgot all about that. Let's do one." So this podcast is as much a surprise to you as it is to me.
There you go. Has to be done, though. Has to be done.
Well, yeah, we'll chat through it. We'll
have
definitely chat through it.
You have to give it the respect it deserves, unfortunately,
Exactly.
as much as people are tuning out from it. It's amazing
Exactly.
the difference a year makes when we were just totally invested in these competitions, and now we're all about the Conference League and the league itself. But look, it's another avenue into Europe, so we have to give it the respect it deserves, and I fully expect there'll be a strong enough team, albeit somewhat of a reserve team, out tomorrow night.
Well, yeah, and we'll get into that in a moment, but I suppose the biggest reason that, like it's not apathy about the competition itself, Paddy. I think it's just apathy about this particular game and the fact that, there's been a lot said about it not being included in the season ticket and, the pricing for it and so on and so forth. And the fact that there's still 18,000 tickets available for this game? Or, well, there was anyway about a week ago. I presume tomorrow there will be, people will fill, not all of them obviously, but I could still see maybe 10,000 seats available. I did an Everton podcast, at a preview with an Everton podcast called the Toffee Blues with lovely lad by the name of Ellis, and I mentioned to him as well. I forgot to say it on the podcast, but I mentioned to him afterwards about the seats, and he was like, "Oh, there's a huge Everton contingent traveling to this game because they're all massively buoyed after beating Brentford at the weekend." So they're mad waiting for this. This game can't come quick enough because, as I say, it's a competition. It's something that they want to use to obviously go far in the competition to kind of gel their team together. And obviously, they're still working their way under Sean Dyche as well. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, which will be defined by what we put
the
on.
biggest possible allocation, which was 4,500. So
yeah.
They're going to have a big contingent there. Their end is going to be full and ours is going to be empty. And look, I can speak out of both sides of my mouth with this one. I knew in May that we didn't have our free. I said this before. We didn't have this free. It could have went under the radar, which it has done many years, where we didn't even have a cup game at home because we were knocked out of the Carabao Cup early and knocked out of the FA Cup away from home. So it's just one of those things that, unfortunately, I believe is 2 years too early. These kind of changes probably should have came around when the North Stand was completed. The same goes for the lower grounds. I'm not even getting into that argument. I agree with everybody. Everything they say is right, but I do believe that this would have been done in 2 years' time anyway, and I think they could have waited. So that's the long and the short of it. This League Cup game, it's unfortunate we're missing out on that one as well, but it's progress. I know people don't like to hear that. I know people are hurting. I know people are hurting in their pocket. But this is how big clubs are run now. And the one thing I will say is, as long as we're a big club on the pitch, as we're trying to be off the pitch, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, let's actually, and you know what, Paddy, we just mentioned this beforehand. Big club off the pitch. There are ways to go. We must be the only club in European football that has decided to give that the players have actually started giving out about their shirts, affecting their performance. If anybody else knows of any other team that has happened to, no, look, we could all see it, that they were like they're sopping wet or whatever. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And look, this isn't having a bitch or a moan or anything about it. I suppose it's just there's a couple of creases that need to be ironed out, and they need to be ironed out quickly, I would say, within the next 6 to 9 months, I think, because as I say, you don't want these things lingering on, and we want the consultation obviously with the fans, and we want all that to continue and to actually I suppose, really grow more so than continue. But yeah, there's look as I said, there's a couple of things. You mentioned the lower grounds. We won't even go into that at the moment because I feel somewhat fraudulent talking about stuff like that, considering that it isn't. I don't go there every week and stuff like that. So sometimes I feel like I'm a bit fraudulent when I do talk about that kind of stuff. So that's why I stay away from it on Twitter at times. I stay away from it here because I could just be riling people up when my dog in the fight here is obviously the fan, but I don't have the lived experience of it.
Mm.
If you want of a better term,
Well,
but
it never appealed to me.
shirt,
The only As a season ticket holder, I was entitled to go in there. The only time I went in there pre-season was once to meet Tony Daly when he was signing his book, and the other time was to have a pint with Kieran and Ben O'Callaghan. And it's a strange place with a strange atmosphere. It's very quiet, very subdued, and it never appealed to me, so I never went back. But look, it's a choice for everybody now. There's more pubs than ever around the ground. People will have to change things up. Not that I'm telling people how to be a fan. If people want to be pissed off about this, they can be pissed off about it because I think they're
100%.
right. I think they're
People
right.
should be, yeah.
Yeah,
If they
but
want to.
look, I'm just giving my point of view that this would have happened in 2 years' time anyway. With the North Stand built, they would have looked at every avenue in order to increase revenue, but it's unfortunate, and the people that it's unfortunate for is the people who went in there week after week and expected to see the same people at the same tables and really, really enjoyed their match day experience, and to have that
Yeah.
taken away is unfortunate. And there's a lot of older gentlemen, let's call them, that go in there, and I feel sorry for them in particular because their whole match day ritual, of being in there in a nice warm room, out of the cold, especially in the winter time. So look, it's tough
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, and look, as I say, this isn't what this podcast was supposed to be about. We're 7 minutes in, but
No, well,
look, I suppose
it's our
it's
job to cover
a-
everything, and we may
well,
as
yeah,
well cover it. Yeah,
exactly. It's something to address because, as I said, these three things are all falling within the same time. The
yeah.
shirt issue, the shirt. I'm going to call it the shirt fiasco because it is pretty mad. What way
Well,
the shirt is
did,
is
did
actually
the article actually
behaving.
say that who was complaining? Because we haven't actually heard anything from the players.
No,
Um,
I haven't. I haven't. I'll be and full disclosure. I've only seen what Villa Report put up on Twitter. I haven't had time to go and look at it, but it just mentioned that I think it was Matt Law mentioned. And look, Matt Law isn't a sensationalist either at the best of times, So when he
mm,
puts it up, he must have gotten a sniff of it from somewhere. Because he's not a kind of a guy who would stake his reputation on sensationalism. Not
yeah,
not that I've seen anyway. If anyone can point me in a different direction, please do. But I think Matt is usually a solid contributor and a
yeah.
solid
And look,
reporter
it
too.
doesn't
So
make sense. It doesn't make sense for a shirt to be sapping wet because,
it
like, we
doesn't.
all know if you get caught in the rain, how uncomfortable and awkward that is to walk around in, let alone play 90 minutes of football in. So something will have to give. You'd have to think that Castor are looking at using a different material to get us back on track, but they haven't got much time to sort this out. That's the issue. But we saw it in America and put it down to the heat. And Ben Davis, who watches and is often in the comments there, Diego Carlos gave his son his jersey in America, and he said it was absolutely soaking wet. Unfortunately, some fucker came along and robbed it off the child then afterwards, believe it or not. But he said,
Mm,
yeah, he said to hold it in his hand was actually soaking wet after holding the jersey. Nuts,
yeah,
absolutely nuts. But
yeah,
look,
yeah.
they'll have to do something to sort it out because it is a mess.
Yeah, and like, look, I suppose, geez, I know I just said we'd move on from this, but we had Rob Warner on, whose job is to design football shirts as a professional, and he said that like this shirt would have been signed off material, design, everything would have been signed off 18 months to 2 years ago because they would have had to sign it off almost 2 years ago. The design of it, obviously not release it. They'd have to have
Mm,
had to do that because of production lead-in times, if I'm not mistaken. That's what he said on the podcast. So like, it's not like it's well, obviously the people who were signing off on it are most likely no longer at the club, considering we've had changes to the management structure at the
mm,
moment, whether it was Christian Purzlow's team or not. But maybe they weren't aware, maybe they didn't know how it would react to players. But you'd think that a clothing company would understand that, would understand how it would react to moisture. But it's
Yeah. Well,
it's just a really strange one.
in fairness to whoever signed off at the club, they're signing off on an email that comes through with the design. They don't actually see the shirt until it arrives, the following year, I would imagine. So the design was all signed off on, but actually the fabric and the feel of the fabric probably wasn't done until it arrived into Bodymore Heat for the players to wear.
Yeah, it's probably well. I would imagine there's prototypes somewhere, but anyway, as I say, it's who actually got to see the prototypes. Because look, to be honest with you, if you were to say to me, "We're getting jerseys," I go, "Yeah, fabric is fabric."
Yeah.
At the end, and that's just my ignorance, and I wouldn't castigate anybody else that would be maybe a financial person or somebody in the commercial department or whoever's making the decision, the CEO, CFO, COO, whatever you want to call them. I wouldn't castigate them for making the decision on it because you don't know fabric. I don't know fabric. Just like if you were to
No.
hand me a plank of wood, I go, "That's a plank of wood." I don't know what type of wood it is,
And
But
he could have handed him the fabric back 12 months ago and had it in his hand and went, that actually feels lovely.
it feels
And
lovely.
unpopular opinion, but I actually like the Castor stuff. The stuff I bought last, I haven't bought any. I bought a home short this season, but other than that, I haven't bought anything this season. But the stuff I bought last season has been really, really good quality.
Yeah.
The training wear has been really good quality. I bought an
agree.
Ireland short, really good quality. I played indoor football and that and was sweating profusely last Wednesday night, but the short wasn't stuck to me or anything. It was fine. So it was just the fabric. The fabric is the issue. We don't see it with Wolves. We don't see it with Newcastle. We don't see it with Rangers. We don't see it with Ireland. They're the ones off the top of my head that have it.
Yeah.
And it just seems to be a problem with that particular one. And it doesn't seem to happen with the away short or the third short either.
No.
So
No.
anyway, there you go.
Yeah, well, maybe we just wear the third shirt more and more. We'll see, but I don't know. But Mark says here, Mark Brannigan, you mentioned here that the article you read stated it was McGinn who complained and demanded something was done, and that the higher ups are insisting that Castori provide a solution. To be honest with you, my rudimentary knowledge of football shirt design and so on and so forth, I have somebody who's involved in. I friends with somebody who's involved in the leisure wear industry. And I'm reliably informed that you could make a complete another copy of it in different fabric and sublimate the design onto it, and not have to completely go out and have a root and branch new replica jersey created or anything like that. That you could you could do it on a different type of fabric,
Exactly.
and it's easy enough solved in theory. In theory, I think it's easy enough stuff. Anyway, look, 12 minutes, 50 seconds into this, and we haven't even uttered Everton's name yet. I will nearly say this every time we speak.
I'm trying to avoid this because, like, what
there isn't really much.
We don't know what Everton how they're going to line up for this. We don't know how seriously they're going to take it, and we don't know how seriously we're going to take it. I think we'll take it fairly seriously, but not to the extent where we see the same team that played yesterday line up tomorrow night. I just can't, or on Sunday line up tomorrow night. I just can't see that.
No.
So, yeah, in your intro there, your picture was
Omari Kellyman.
Omari Kellyman. Yeah, I think there will be the odd bolter like that comes in and plays. So I hope there is, because in fairness to the young lad, the performances he put in pre-season, he deserves a run out. So is this the right
whether
time
it's
for him?
Start or whether it's 30 minutes off the bench,
I
think it makes sense for him. Yeah, I do. And to be honest with you, in the position that he could come on and he could play, I don't see any reason not to start him, in a game like this. Now, we talk about Hubert, or we talk about sorry, there was there was somebody who commented on a video before and used the word hubris, and that's why I'm just having a little smile to myself there. But we do talk about hubris and going with teams that may be overly changed. And we may not see that considering what happened against Legia Warsaw, but I think that there will be obviously different bodies in there. Like, I think John Duran starts. I think that's probably a given that John Duran is going to start this game. I think Jacob Ramsey is going to start this game. I think Leon Bailey is going to start this game. I think Dina has to start this game because we don't have any other left back in the on the panel unless he goes Seb Brevin for this one. I mean, he can't, because Seb Brevin's out on loan at Rotherham. He can't. He's gone out on loan. Pau Torres, he's not going to play at left back.
I wouldn't have thought so.
I would imagine Clement Longley is going to come in there somewhere. Maybe Torres, maybe it's Torres, Longley, and Konza playing that back line. Like so, that back four are probably going to be three people that will be playing again this coming weekend.
Yeah,
I would imagine, because we just don't have a massive amount of bodies there. I don't think he goes Chambers at right back. And that's not just. I just
I don't. I hope not. I hope not.
he might
Like,
go
look,
Medicash at right back. I think actually,
I
but I think
want to see us put out our strongest possible in a defensive line and be somewhat professional in that and that's where we'll grow. I'd probably I would not be surprised one bit to see Robin Olsen start. So if Robin Olsen starts, I think we need to be really strong in front of him, just to give him that little bit of confidence of that he knows he has the support of those around him. So. That's my prediction anyway, for the back four to be really strong, Robin Olsen in behind, and then it's after that. I do believe we'll see Yuri Tielemans tomorrow, in some shape or form. He could leave out either or of Luis or Kamara or both.
I think Luis starts. That was going to be my thing.
Yeah. And then it's a free for all then up top, what he decides to do and who he decides to play. I agree with you. That'll be Duran and Bailey. I'd like to see Duran, Bailey, and Kellyman.
That's what I have. Sorry, I have a 4-4-2 with Ramsey and Bailey in the wings, and Kellyman playing off Duran up top. That's that's how I think they'll go.
Absolutely fine with me.
And to be honest with you, I think that's where you play Kellyman. You just give him that bit of freedom in behind the striker, allow him play there, allow him run across the two centre halves who are likely going to be. Maybe they go with Brent Waite inside there. Maybe they go with Tarkovsky if they go with their full team. If not, they've got Michael Keane, who we took the task already this year, and Ben Godfrey in there. So they actually have a pretty decent 4 centre halves in there that they could get something going out of. I would imagine what's your man's name? Is it Nathan Patterson, the right back, the Scottish right back, might come in again. They only have one left back as far as I'm aware in Mikolenko, unless they bring Ashley Young over. I don't think we see Ashley Young at the weekend unless he starts at left back. And then they're going to. I think that they might completely change their strike force as well, albeit that they had Calvert-Lewin and Beto, and both of them scored, if I'm not mistaken, at the weekend. Well, Calvert-Lewin definitely did when he came off the bench, but they also have that young guy they signed from Sporting. Beto didn't,
The Corey and Tarkovsky got the other 2 goals.
Yeah. Sharmiti, the guy that they signed from Sporting Lisbon during the summer, young guy, 19 years of age, and obviously Neil Maupe. Did he not go to Brentford? Did he not go back to Brentford?
He's gone, yeah. He's gone.
He go back to Brentford?
He did.
Just in the back of my mind. I wasn't sure whether it went through on deadline day or not. But well, he won't start, so it's probably Sharmiti, and maybe they give Calvert-Lewin a start there. Dwight McNeil, I think, will definitely start this game, just because away from home, having a steady Eddie like Dwight McNeil in there who can play who can play on that left wing and whip in crosses to beat the band. I think he's a vital weapon, and he's something vital in Sean Dyche's team. So I suppose that will actually show us whether Dyche really wants to win this, or is coming here to win this game or solidify for the Premier League.
I think he's in the unfortunate situation where he doesn't have the backup to really mix it up and be competitive. Plus, he could probably do without this, because staying in the Premier League is the most important thing for that club. So in order to push on, and what he'll be judged on at the end of the season is what he does in the Premier League. So this could be a pain or a pimple on his ass tomorrow. So we will know an awful lot by this time tomorrow and what he decides to do. But I don't believe that. I believe that if he had more to pick from, like you mentioned, the likes of Patterson, Keane, Godfrey, Chermiti, Danjuma, you haven't mentioned, he could be in there as well. He will mix it up. He'll mix it up as much as possible to get minutes in the legs of those fellas who are sitting out games. I'm sure he'd still go with Pickford, because the young lad they have there from the Portuguese fella, his name escapes me, the goalkeeper.
Virginia or something like that. What's his name? I think they go. Joe Virginia. Yeah, I think that's what his name is.
Yeah. Well, he might throw him in there if he thinks he's good enough. So, he's still relatively young, 23 years of age, but time will tell whether he's good enough material to be in there from the start.
Yeah.
But
Someone they could throw in there as well is, Everton. Everton love to have kind of like a homegrown player in there every so often. Well, not every so often, like most teams do. Like they like to have a homegrown player. Tom Davies used to be that guy,
yeah,
and now obviously Tom Davies is gone. And Onyango, is it Tyler Onyango as well? He's come off the bench once this season. Young guy, big strong midfielder, very good in the air. They might just play a Twin Towers midfield, in there with Onyango and Onana in there. Not the most mobile players, but still very, very, like, they're not slow. Don't get me wrong, but they're very they're very big. They're very strong. They're very good at taking up space. Maybe that might be something they might do inside there as well. He's definitely somebody I think could start tomorrow. If Sean Dyche does look at maybe kind of trying to mix it up a small bit.
John Steele makes a very valid point here. 5 Premier League teams go out in this round. It's 4 games to the final. They might as well go strong. I agree. I do agree.
That's good info. I didn't know that, John. And as I say, 7 minutes before we went live, that's the amount of time we had to do a bit of research in this. But that is that's actually a decent incentive. 5 Premier League teams go out, and there's obviously always an upset third round, where the Premier League team will go out that you don't expect.
There's strong teams playing each other as well. Man City play Newcastle. Brentford play Arsenal. Chelsea play Brighton. We play Everton. And Liverpool have Leicester, which is no walkover either. I know it's not an all Premier League tie anymore, but it could definitely see people go out that weren't expecting it as well.
And Paddy as well, with all these games going straight to penalties as well, teams have an incentive to sit back and hold on for a 0-0 draw and try and win on penalties. So.
Wolves have gone out tonight to lower league opposition as well. They lost to Ipswich 3-2. Palace are gone, beaten by Man United. Luton are gone, lost to Exeter. So, look, it's a very valid point that John makes. And even with going strong, we can go strong without sacrificing too much on the pitch, I believe. The only real bolter that wouldn't get any kind of game time usually would be Robin Olsen and Amari Kellerman, as we mentioned. I think everybody else is going to be in around the squad anyway.
I actually, somebody else we didn't mention that could get game time in there. He came on for a small bit. The last game is Leo Dendoncker. He could be brought in. He could be like you could see a team. You could see an all Belgian midfield there with Tielemans and Dendoncker, and usually I would go. I'm not 100% sure of having the two of them in there in a 2-man midfield, but the two of them know each other inside out from playing international football with each other, albeit. But like the thing that gets me here, I'm not going to say excited, but gets me really rational about Leo Dendoncker here is that if we went with 2 natural fullbacks, like let's just say he goes with Matty Cash and he goes with Digne in this game, Dendoncker, and we know how we played when Boubacar Kamara pulled back into the back 3. So let's just say he goes with Longley and he goes with Pau Torres. And goes with 2 left footers, and we have a situation whereby Dendoncker can pull back into that back 3 because he plays in a back 3 in international football.
Now, for Belgium, that's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
exactly. Now that to me then would mean Leon Bailey wouldn't start or Kellyman wouldn't start because he would go then with a midfield 4 of something like Ramsey, Tielemans, McGinn to start the game. And I'm okay with that too. If that happens, I'm okay with that too because it means that the 3 become a more narrow 3. Bailey goes up top, or Kellyman goes up top, then with Duran, and then we've got we're flanked by Cash and Digne, like he's done already this season. But to me, the more I talk about it, the more I start to convince myself that isn't a bad thing to do, and it gives us an option if we wanted to use that tactic, and it gives us also an option of taking Kamara off and using that tactic in other games, and by seeing it here against decent opposition tomorrow. And it's Chad, good to see you from the Villa Forever podcast, guys. If you haven't watched Chad's podcast recently, well, if you haven't watched Chad's podcast at all, you better watch it. But secondly, if you haven't watched it recently, it's just big name after big name on that podcast. You had Gary Thompson on it recently, and you've been doing some great work, Chad. So keep up the
Hang
great
on,
work.
it's about to take a nosedive because I'm due on it next week. So the big names are finished.
Oh no! Get the bleep filter out, Chad. Get the bleep filter out for all the swear words.
I have to be on my best behaviour.
but Chad asked, do I think Chamber starts tomorrow? I don't, and I don't, because I think that I think he'll go with something different tomorrow, or I think he'll go with something a bit stronger. I like, it's not to say, it's not to say that Callum Chambers is completely written off, but I just don't think this game against Everton would suit him. Specifically playing as a right back, I don't think it suits.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he offers him a little bit of redemption there to go on and make up for last week, just to see, put a final nail in his coffin or give him a chance. I don't believe he rates him as highly as previous managers did, but look, he's not a bad option to have when we're stuck. I don't believe he's up to the quality that where we want to be come the end of this season. So for that reason, there could be a little bit of a chance that he starts tomorrow, but I wouldn't be putting any money on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't start him in this game. I want us to attack them down the wings. I want us to be more fluid down the wings, and I just don't think he's the guy that brings us that. Yeah. I think he's either comes in as an auxiliary third centre half, or he's the guy who comes on to kill the game as a defensive midfielder if Dundonker or somebody is injured. But I'm just not sure of him as a right back, specifically when we're wanting to take the game to teams. Because when he gets forward, as we saw against Legia Warsaw, he's not going to develop, an extra 3 yards of pace between what we saw against Legia and tomorrow night. So positionally, he has to be better, and he may very well be better positionally as well. There's no hard and fast there either. Ronan asks, is Traore back and fit? If so, does he start tomorrow? I don't know. I don't think he's fit.
No, he's still out. Yeah, he's nearly there, but he won't make tomorrow, apparently.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because it's a game whereby he gets 20 minutes off the bench, definitely, if he's fit. And he needs these games, he needs these games because chances...
He's been very unfortunate, he could...
Incredibly.
He could have got a start tomorrow if he was fit, I'd imagine, just to put minutes in him and see where he's at. I would have had no problem with him playing again instead of the likes of Bailey or whatever. Bailey's got plenty of time, but it is unfortunate. But look, he's still our player, so he's not a bad weapon to have in competitions like these. And it was the anniversary yesterday, was it, of that magical goal he scored in his debut in the Carabao Cup as well. So anyway,
and as I always say about Bertrand Traore, came back from a loan deal in January, didn't play a whole pile, but essentially his goal against Leicester was what kicked it all off, that goal out of nothing in a game whereby we didn't look like we were going to do anything, and then all of a sudden, that run has kept going, and we go on and we finish in the top 7. So, fair play to Bertrand Traore, that he scored some beautiful goals, and he'll get his chances at times this season as well, but he's just been really unfortunate with injury. So that does kick you down the pecking order a small bit. For him, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Are you going to ask me your question, Paddy, about the Everton team?
And anyone getting into the tantrum?
Is it the tantrum? I wasn't sure whether it was the team sheet tantrum. Okay, we'll hold on for that. I just said I'd ask you because I couldn't remember. If
I keep forgetting to do it myself. But anyway, I'll try and remember tomorrow. I gave it to Vinny at the weekend, and he was a bit stumped.
Poor old Vinny, springing it on him like that. I suppose that really kind of does it for tonight. It's very difficult to talk about a game when you're guessing potentially anywhere up to 6 starters in a team. It's very difficult. Now, it's easy to discuss it but it's all hypothetical, and specifically as well, we don't know what way Everton are going to go. Now, the Ellis, who I spoke to on the Toffee Blues podcast, he's convinced that Everton are going to go strong. And we'll go with 10 out of the 10 starters. That maybe not Beto. He maintains to go with their full complement: Pinkford and goals, two centre halves. He maintains Dyche is going to go hard for this and use it as a platform to build off the Brentford game. And if they do, then Villa are going to have their wits about them tomorrow, because yes, I know historically, or over the last, what is it, in 2023, Everton are rock bottom of the table, just on the same points as Chelsea, as fate would have it, and both clubs kind of put there by Frank Lampard, but I don't know whether you could label everything as Lampard's fault. But Everton have a corner that they can turn. I don't think they're absolutely awful. They were awful against us when we beat them earlier on in the season, but I think that there is a corner for Everton to turn. And I've said it before, and I'll say it in every single podcast when Aston Villa play Everton. I like Everton. I think they're a real traditional, honest, good football club with a superb history. And for me, they're, as I said before, it's the ground that I've been second most in English football, and I want to see Everton survive in the Premier League, and I want to see them stay up. I just don't want to see them win tomorrow night.
Absolutely, that goes without saying, isn't it?
Exactly. Dave is asking for score predictions. I do them in this show, and Paddy normally does them in the team sheet tantrum. I am going to go 2-1 Aston Villa. That was my score prediction in when I did the Toffee Blues podcast. And if you guys want to watch that as well, it's on YouTube, Toffee Blues podcast. We spoke a lot about this game. Went into more detail, I suppose. I did wax lyrically about my respect for Everton as well. So if you want to, you can forward through that, because you've heard quite a lot of it here a moment ago. But
Neil, I'm surprised we got 30 minutes into this, and I know we're just about to finish, but you haven't mentioned the rumours around Ollie Watkins today.
That's because I didn't see anything credible. I didn't see anything at all.
Did you not?
I've that group muted. No, I did. I actually flicked through it. I was there going, "Oh yeah, the boys had something up in the group about the about rumors. What are the rumors again? Who's looking at him? Arsenal. Pony up the money, lads. That's all I'd say. Anyone who comes looking for any of our players, that's fine. Have a look at them. Pony it up. I did see Villa Report had something up as well today, saying that I've been locked in meetings all day today, so I've seen half nothing. And anything I did see, I skimmed through. But Villa Report had that Villa are working hard on getting Ollie Watkins to sign a new contract. So I suppose there were rumors, but they might turn out to be bullshit, kind of a situation, I would say. But
it seems credible enough that he's playing hardball on his contract, but
he should, as every player should. I'm a big fan of that.
Score a few goals, and then go back and go, now what do you think of me? So look, he started at the weekend. Strange celebration, not to go to our fans and have to be dragged over by John McGinn, but he's definitely a player that we need around the squad.
He's our best striker, that's why. He's historically our best striker in the Premier League since we've been brought up, since we're back up. So,
the reason I brought up is because it's Arsenal and because it's the team he supported as a boy. So if that's in the back of his mind, then there would be an element of doubt in mine.
Yeah, well, there you go. As I say, for every single one of our players, starting point is north of 50 million. Yeah. Like if Brennan Johnson is worth 47.5 million, got to tack another 10, 15 million on for an England striker who's got double digits in the last 3 years. That's just my that's my view. Everybody has a price. As the $1 million man and Ted DiBiase said, everybody's got a price. So like I've no problem with people being linked, but pony up the cash and we'll see what happens. If not, jog on and get him sign his contract. That's the way I feel about every player, because I'm confident that the club can replace. I'm confident in the club bring the right players in for Unai Emery to play his style. Put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's replaceable. That's my opinion, except for
we'd like not to have to replace them. We'd like not to have to replace them, but if you do, sometimes you just gotta get on with it and replace them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff. Right, go and leave it at that, everybody. 35.5 minutes or 34.5 minutes in. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us in the surprise episode of For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. We will be back again tomorrow for Team Sheet Tantrum, and we will also be back then for a what's it called, post-match podcast after the game. I'll be hopefully slightly bit more with it. Again, I won't have been working all day, but as I say, hopefully you will join us for that. And thank you for joining us tonight. So in the meantime, everybody, here's hoping to Aston Villa winning tomorrow night. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.